"Your brother didn't just disappear." The stranger's voice cut through the silence. Alex felt a chill run down his spine, but what was even more terrifying was seeing Lily lower her eyes. "Ask her." But the truth she was hiding was worse than any nightmare. The night rain drummed against the roof of the old abandoned warehouse, droplets trickling down the rusty metal sheets, creating a deep, monotonous hum. Thick fog swirled at ground level, muffling the glow of the flashlights the group held in their hands. The air was heavy with the scent of dampness, decay, and something else. Something strange, barely perceptible, yet unsettling. In the center of the dark space, among scattered wooden pallets and the dusty remains of machines, a group of students had gathered. Alex, Jason, Brian, and Lily. They had known each other for years and had their own way of having fun, testing urban legends and filming it all on video. Abandoned buildings and rumors of the paranormal didn't scare them. They enjoyed teasing each other, summoning spirits, playing with things they didn't understand. "All right, what about this one?" Jason smirked, pulling out his phone and turning on the bright screen. "Have you seen how everyone's talking about the hooded man?" Alex scoffed skeptically, leaning toward the fire crackling in an old metal barrel. He ripped open a beer can, took a sip, and turned to his friend. "Just another hoax. There's no cursed guy." Brian nodded in agreement. "Like last time with that ghost girl?" "Pfft, boring." But Lily, sitting on a crate, crossed her arms thoughtfully. Her long blonde hair was slightly damp from the rain, and she looked a little less confident than the others. "Yeah, but people have seen him near this warehouse," she said quietly, adding fuel to the fire. Brian and Jason exchanged amused glances. "Oh, so Lily's scared now?" Jason teased. "I'm not scared, idiot," she huffed. "It's just, they say he watches those who laugh at him." At that moment, a piercing creak shattered the silence. Everyone flinched. The sound was deep and strained, like a door that hadn't been opened in years, and yet, suddenly, someone, or something, had decided to step inside. The group whipped around toward the entrance. The darkness beyond the warehouse seemed thick and unmoving, as if the night itself were watching them in return. And from that darkness, slowly, as if in no hurry, step by step, a tall figure emerged. He was wearing a long black coat, and his hood completely obscured his face. No one moved. The crackling fire in the barrel suddenly seemed too loud. Brian was the first to break the silence. He laughed and nudged Jason with his elbow. "Well, guys, looks like it's him." Jason immediately joined in. "What's up, Mr. Hood? You here to scare us?" Alex narrowed his eyes, took a step forward, and called out, "Hey, man, who the hell are you? Why so quiet?" But the stranger didn't respond. He just stood in the doorway, as if listening to them. A heavy silence pressed down on the air. Then he took a slow step forward. "What's with him? Maybe he's deaf?" Brian joked. The group laughed. Someone lifted their phone to start recording. "Just some drifter," Jason snorted. "Probably drunk." But the laughter died when the stranger raised his hand, and slowly, very slowly, reached for his hood. The group stopped breathing. For a split second, the entire warehouse seemed frozen in dead silence. And then, he began to pull back his hood. The warehouse was engulfed in a deathly silence. It felt as if even the rain outside had stopped its monotonous drumming, holding its breath along with the group. The damp, dark walls seemed to press in on them, while the dim firelight from the metal barrel cast eerie, flickering shadows across the rusted beams. The hooded figure raised his hand. The movement was unnaturally slow, as if savoring the moment, as if waiting for them to realize. He pulled back the hood. The air thickened, like the stillness before a storm. Their faces changed instantly, Lily's lips parted, but no sound escaped. Alex sucked in a sharp breath, his fingers clenching into a fist. "Holy shit!" Brian stammered, stepping back. Jason didn't blink, unable to tear his gaze away from what was beneath the hood. It was not a human face. The skin, too smooth, marble-like, almost lifeless. It glistened under the firelight, as if made of wax or plastic. The eyes, or what should have been eyes. Instead of pupils and irises, there were endless, inky black voids. They did not reflect light. They did not blink. But the most horrifying thing, it moved. As if something was desperately trying to mimic human features but couldn't quite find the right shape. The lips stretched slightly, but not into a smile, more like an imitation. The cheekbones shifted, but unnaturally, as though something beneath the skin was searching for the perfect position. The group stood frozen, transfixed by the sight, and then the thing stepped forward. Lily clapped a hand over her mouth, her breathing turning into panicked gasps. "What the hell is that?" she shrieked, bolting. Brian clutched his head, doubling over as if searing needles had pierced his skull. "It's in my head," he groaned. Jason collapsed to his knees, his face twisted in terror. "It knows who we are." Alex felt a wave of ice-cold dread creep down his spine. This man? No. This thing knew too much about them. Lily grabbed a crowbar, her fingers clenching tightly around the cold metal. Her heart pounded in her chest, beating in a frantic rhythm as if trying to warn her. Don't do this. But the fear, the terror, the tension, they had to end. With a wild scream, she lunged forward. "Get out!" Her footsteps echoed through the abandoned warehouse. A dull metallic clang sliced through the air as the crowbar slammed into the stranger's side. But he didn't move. It was as if her strike had vanished into emptiness, never making contact. Lily had expected something. A flinch, a grunt, anything. But he just stood there, as if the blow had struck thin air, as if his body wasn't where she saw it. A chill crawled down her spine. Useless. The voice. It wasn't a man's voice. It wasn't a woman's voice. It was something else. Something unnatural. The sound was both deep and sharp, low and high, as though multiple voices spoke at once, overlapping in a disturbing, inhuman symphony. The stranger slowly turned his head. His hollow eyes locked onto Alex. "Your brother. Do you remember?" Alex froze. Something twisted painfully in his chest. He didn't want to hear those words. "How do you—" His voice came out broken. The stranger tilted his head slightly, as if studying his reaction. "Did you know he didn't just disappear?" Alex's body tensed. Every part of him screamed, "Don't listen." But the stranger's words clawed into his mind, reaching the deepest corners of his memories. "You're lying," Alex snarled, his fists tightening. "The truth was here all along." His voice was steady, too steady. The stranger lifted a hand and pointed at Lily. "Ask her." Silence. Lily went rigid. Her breathing grew shallow, uneven. Alex turned to her. "Lily?" She didn't answer. Her hands clenched and unclenched. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Alex stepped forward. "Tell them." The stranger pressed. Jason, who had been staring at the floor, trying to block everything out, slowly lifted his head. His face was pale, his eyes wide with unspoken fear. "What is he talking about?" No one answered. Lily clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her skin. Her hands trembled slightly and something unbearable settled like a heavy weight in her chest. Her breathing became ragged, as if each inhale was a battle. She couldn't stay silent any longer. I never wanted you to find out like this, Alex. Her voice broke into a near-silent whisper. Once again, the warehouse was swallowed by suffocating silence. It felt as if time itself had frozen, refusing to move forward until these words were spoken in full. Alex clenched his jaw. What are you hiding? Lily met his gaze. Her eyes, they held pain. But not just pain. Guilt. The kind that eats away at you from the inside, keeping you awake at night. Her lips quivered. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't look away. Your brother, he didn't just disappear. The words came out in broken fragments, as if she was fighting against each one. Alex went still. Lily closed her eyes for a second, took a deep breath, and then forced the truth out, as if it was tearing her apart from within. He found him before we did. Jason exhaled sharply but said nothing. Lily continued, He realized that this man isn't human. Not human. The words hung in the darkness, heavy and foreign, sending chills down their spines. And he disappeared because he was trying to protect you, Alex. Silence. Deep, suffocating, inescapable. Alex staggered back as if her words had physically struck him. You knew. His voice trembled, then hardened with anger. And you stayed silent? Lily gasped. I was afraid. Her words broke into a choked sob. She wanted to explain, to justify herself, but it didn't matter anymore. He knew. They all knew. Alex's fists tightened, but before he could say anything, the stranger nodded. Now you know the truth. The darkness in his eyes shifted. For a split second, something changed. It was as if unseen fingers let go of the face they were holding, allowing something real to surface. His eyes. For just a moment, they were human. I was only looking for someone who remembers me, he whispered. His voice was different, not cold, not hollow, human. And then, he was gone, not fading into mist, not vanishing into thin air, just ceasing to exist, as if he had never been there at all. Only the echo of his final words remained, lingering in the dark warehouse. The group stood in silence. They knew the truth. But did it make anything easier?